Welcome back, Junkies. I'm Brandon Dukeman here with Will Harvey, and you are listening to the Daily Wealth Junkies Show. Thanks for joining us today. We've got another exciting interview in store for you today. But first, before we get started, don't forget, join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Wealth Junkies. And if you like what you're hearing every day or what you're seeing in the Facebook group, invite a friend to the Facebook group. Tell a friend about some of the episodes that you're listening to, so that way we can spread all the Wealth Junkie greatness. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Will so he can introduce our guest for the day.
The Wealth Junkie greatness.
The Wealth Junkie greatness.
So today on the show, we have one of our own. We have David's son, and David is a full-time electrical engineer with a penchant for real estate and options trading. He's leveraged his knowledge to build a successful real estate career and launch a private hedge fund. He's also one of the principals at our company, CEO Capital Partners. So David, my first question is, how the hell are you finding enough hours in the day to do all of that?
Busy guy.
That's my first question. You can talk about that in a little bit. But David, thanks so much for coming on the show. Can you give the listeners just a little bit more about your background and what got you to where you are today?
Yeah. Thanks, Brandon and Will, for having me on. I'm excited to share my story. There's a lot to go into. And that's what people always ask me, how do you find the time? So I'll just kind of go a little bit into my background and sort of the trajectory of how I got to where I am now. So I did my undergrad at UVA for electrical engineering, and I went straight to grad school at Princeton University in New Jersey for the same thing, electrical
That's
engineering.
That's right. He said Princeton University.
So
Princeton and UVA.
Yeah.
So that was when I got into option trading. There was a buddy there that just kind of got me into that, but that was more from as a retail investor and kind of doing anything my own. Nothing serious then, but I kind of just honed my craft for a number of years. Fast forward, after I graduated, I got into my electrical engineering job. I can't talk too much about it, but I deal with microelectronics. So when people think like semiconductors and chips, they think about like the chips inside like your phone, for example. But I deal with like at the nano scale, like transistors and microelectronics. So that's kind of stuff I deal with. But that's the boring stuff. I know
he's smart as shit, basically.
I was going to say, you can't talk about it, but neither can we, because we don't know much about it.
Right, exactly.
The people on your show are not interested. We're trying to skip the whole W-2 thing. That's the boring part of my life. But a few years ago, I happened to get my real estate license. And at the time, it was more, again, not something serious. It was just kind of, we bought a house, we're going to move, and we're like, you know what, like, hey, why don't I just get a license and get the commission, and save some money there. And occasionally, if a friend wants to help out, I go show a house, help them buy or sell or something like that. So it was never meant to be something serious. But for me, like the way I think, and whenever I start something, I just want to go all in and like do the best and do it to the best of my ability. And it's just kind of my work ethic. So over time, it kind of organically just grew to I'm not a full-time real estate agent by any means, but I have, people, friends and family referral, and I try to do a good job. So people just kind of talk about.
He does full-time numbers.
Sure.
I'll say that.
Yeah. Sure. My clients would, my friends know I have a full-time job, but like if it's a referral or somebody, like they would never know I have a full-time job. They would just think I'm a full-time real estate agent because that's the level of service I want to provide.
Right.
And then a couple years back, so I was doing my options trading. Again, it was all on my own, but I found this online resource called Tastytrade. It's just online financial network that's focused on options trading. And they do a lot of outreach to retail investors about education, financial literacy, and kind of helping retail investors kind of do better. And it's like a wealth of knowledge. And that really took my knowledge of trading to new heights. And I was exponentially increasing my knowledge.
Can you explain, before we get further into that,
Sure.
Can you explain to a dummy or two dummies what,
I was going to ask
what
the same
options trading is?
So normally when people think of the stock market, they think about buying stocks. You buy stock in Facebook or Apple or companies or index funds. But when you buy a stock, essentially we call it a 50-50 bet, because if the stock goes up, you make money. If the stock goes down, you lose money. And it's at any one time, it's going to be 50-50. Mm-hmm. But options are derivative products, meaning they derive their value from some underlying. So I can buy an options contract on a stock, and it's basically an option to buy or sell. And the value of that is dependent on what the stock does. But because it's derived on the stock, the value of the options themselves are not directly tied, and you actually have different probabilities. You can construct different trades where I might have a 80% chance of success or 90% chance. So I can potentially make money even if the stock that I'm trading my options on doesn't do a thing, or even goes down or goes up. So there's a whole world of knowledge out there, but it's pretty complicated, and you have to kind of understand probabilities and numbers.
And so you taught yourself, well, you said you were already kind of into it already, but you learned a lot from Tastytrade.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And they even have their own platform called Tastyworks, which is a platform just like the E-Trade or Fidelity, but it's completely geared towards options. A really slick interface. And they were the reason I was able to sort of take my knowledge to new heights. And as I was gaining confidence in my trading, and I don't know what put the idea in my head, but I was like, you know what, why don't I scale this up and do it for somebody else and launch a hedge fund, So, and the funny thing is, this was around the summer of or late spring of 2017, I want to say, or maybe 2018. And Will and I, he was one of the first guys I approached when I mentioned I want to launch a hedge fund. And this was about the time, Will, you were getting into the whole multifamily thing, right? And
right.
And what ultimately became CEO Capital Partners. And he told me about this business idea, and he kind of educated me on multifamily. And that's how I got into that. And those two things kind of start off at the same time. So I launched a hedge fund. It officially launched, like late 2018. I've been managing for like a year. And so that's been going well. And of course, at this point, I think some of your audience will hear Will's story about CEO Capital Partners and the multifamily. And I was involved with that. So I won't talk too much.
Yeah, we
kind of hear that.
I'll touch on that real quick. I remember you came up to me and you were like, and we had been working together. You were in real estate, I was in the mortgage business, so obviously we traded business back and forth. And you had mentioned you were like, hey, I'm starting a hedge fund, and this is what I'm doing, and blah blah blah. And I was like, that was so great that you told me that, because I was so hush hush about what I was doing with dealing with the business partners I had and everybody else. I was so quiet about the whole multifamily thing. Once you said that, I was like, oh man, that's awesome. Let me tell you about what I'm doing.
What was that? What did you just you weren't sure if it'll be successful, so you don't want to tell anyone, or you saw someone else starting something? No,
I knew I was going to eventually quit my job and go into that full time, which I now have done. But I didn't want to. I don't know. It was
like seeing somebody else start a new venture and sort of take a risk, inspired you to sort of open up about it too, having.
Yeah, well, you kind of have a buddy that has the same views as you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So anyways, that was a little tangent.
So we did that for, and fast forward to now where those things are taking off. And then I have to the point where because people always, I'm a member of these online option trading groups, and people kind of follow my trades and everything. And I have a lot of people coming up to ask me for help. And I've even started doing online paid coaching, and it's just one of those things where if you have something, that you're really knowledgeable about and you want to share it and people find value, people are willing to, pay for the education, and all things that we do, with the real estate, with CEO Capital Partners, with Wealth Junkies, it's just about finding something that you're really knowledgeable and sharing that information, and trying to help others sort of take something away from that.
Yeah. So back to my original question before we started. I mean, how are you finding enough hours in the day to do all of this stuff? And what would you say to the people that say double down on one thing and only do that and throw everything else aside? What would you say?
There's definitely something to that. And the reason I gave my story was because I wanted to show that this didn't all happen overnight. There was, I was picking up knowledge in different things I was interested in, and it's sort of one built on the other. And, there was some synergy there because, for example, with real estate, you meet a lot of people and it opens doors for more opportunities to kind of share knowledge with people. And then even with something with the hedge fund, if I didn't have that network to tap into, maybe I didn't think I could find people who want to invest money with me, that kind of thing. But as far as finding the time, for me, I just believe in trying to have systems in place and leveraging your skills, leveraging knowledge, leveraging time. And I'll show you what I mean. And this was very fortunate because, for example, the real estate brokerage that I joined, they were very dedicated to helping new agents become successful. So what the real estate business, and maybe with any business, there's sort of 4 phases of the cycle. There's lead generation, there is lead conversion, and then there is doing the transaction, whatever that may be. And then there is the follow-up client retention, because everyone knows in the business, client acquisition costs a lot more than client retention. So, but these are the kind of the 4 phases of the business. And if you don't know anything about business, or you're a new agent, like you don't know any of these kind of things, but this brokerage I'm in, they basically taught us that and gave us the systems to implement all of those, all of those phases. They gave us leads, for example, and they taught us how to use scripts to talk to new leads, to convert them to clients. And then they gave us the training to do a transaction, how to write contracts, how to buy a house, sell a house. And then they gave us things to do. There's constant contact. They give us tools to follow up with past clients. We have Facebook groups, and people share knowledge, and people share their ideas of, people do mailers or whatever it is. And so all of this was just kind of thrown in my lap. And again, I mentioned whenever I do something, I'm going to do it to my, my best ability. And maybe if this tool set and these systems weren't given to me, I wouldn't be able to sort of take my progress, as fast as it was. And one thing I mentioned about leveraging time, like for example, as buyer's agent, one of the most time intensive parts is showing people houses, right? Now, thankfully, most people are working as well, so they can only see houses at night or on the weekends, right? So I don't have to, and I take my own day job very seriously, right? So I'm not gonna like shirk or run off in the middle of the day. So I had to find a way to balance that. Now, in our brokerage, we have 700 plus agents. It's very collaborative. For example, I can get another agent to help show a house if there is a one-off, if it's during the day. Somebody needs to see a house. I can make a phone call. I call this agent I know and like, hey, can you help me show this house? And we kind of trade favors that way. So that's one way to leverage time, right? And then another way is because I know contracts so well, if somebody tells me they're interested in a property, I may do research on that property ahead of time in the evening, or even start writing part of the contract, because a lot of it is standard stuff, but then, the specifics of like the price, the offer details, and that kind of thing. Those I can kind of plug in once they finalize, okay, I want to offer this price on this house or whatever. I can just update the address, the price, but like a lot of that stuff is pre-done. So I'm all about being prepared and having systems in place. So when the action needs to be done, I don't have to drop what I'm doing, or I do, but I just have to, waste an hour. I can just be like, okay, here's the address, here's the time. Okay, ready to go, send it out. So that's just a couple of examples of leveraging my knowledge and time to create something where I don't have to spend as much time as somebody else might.
So you've really systematized your life.
Yes.
All the different
pieces time blocking, time management. And that's one of those things where like, I just really had to hone that and prioritize the thing. So every minute I'm going to be spending on something productive. Like in the evening, I'm going to have a couple hours to usually people watch TV or something. And I do that too, but occasionally, like I said, if I know a client wants to buy a house or is interested in something, I'll go do that research. I'll go prepare the paperwork, I'll go set the appointments. So all of that can be done, outside of my kind of busy hours, so to speak.
So and you're working 9 to 5, or what are the hours of your day job?
My job is, there's some flexibility. So if I do need to do like a one-off, I mean, like, if I might like use a lunch break, to do something or take a call or something. So I have some flexibility, and I know one of the questions you asked later is kind of the day-to-day schedule, so I can kind of get into my routine to give an idea. But yes, I managed to just kind of work around that.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the I want to dive deeper into the options world and just talk about as much as you can, just strategies on that and just what you do with that and how you've been successful in it.
So same thing with that, because like sometimes I'll talk to somebody and they'll be like, well, how do you even have time to manage this? Like, like I'm not a day trader. I do my strategies kind of based on probabilities, and I will put on a position or a trade that I know will have some chance of success, regardless of what because there's people who do something called technical analysis, where they look at charts and they try to figure out the direction and try to guess. And I have nothing against that, but that's just sort of not my way. I'm a numbers guy, so I'll look at something that has some chance of success, which means there's some chance of failure, but there's a concept called expectancy. So if I have an 80% chance of making X dollars and a 20% chance of losing Y dollars, but if you multiply that out, 80% times I win this much, 20% times I lose this much, the net effect, right? Because you have some winnings and some losings, and when you add them up, you still end up with a net positive profit. So that's the expectancy. So I look at strategies and I'll look at the probabilities, and if I believe this has a net positive expectancy, I will do that strategy over and over and over and over and just let the probabilities play out, right? Not every trade's going to win, right? So, but I don't care, because I'm just going to apply that same strategy and know that over the long term, the numbers play out. And as far as, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and when you're saying that there's a put and a call, right?
Yes, those are basic options products at the very fundamental level. Yes.
So that's basically what I know about it too.
Yeah, exactly. And one of them is essentially, I'm really trying to dumb this down. So you're for me. So one is I forget which one is which, but there's
like so just a short definition. A call option gives you the right to buy an underlying product at a fixed price called a strike price, and you have that right for a certain period of time, because every option has an expiration date. And a put option is the opposite. It gives you the option to sell that underlying product at a fixed price before a given date. And that's at the very basic level. But here's the thing: you can buy options, you can sell options, you can buy and sell options, or you can buy more than you sell. And depending on how you construct these positions, you can essentially make these risk profiles. And risk profile meaning, if the market does X, you'll make money or lose money. And depending on your assumption, if you think the market's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to stay the same. It's going to stay the same for a little bit of time and then go up a little bit. You can construct various positions to capitalize on your assumptions. And it's just, you can get real fancy. Now, I've done all of that in the past. I tend to do things that are pretty simple. Again, I like to look at the numbers and let that play out. But I wanted to answer another piece because you asked about how I manage my time. So if somebody's a day trader and they're looking to do position short-term trades and they're watching the charts and they want to go, oh, I think this thing is going to go up, so I'm going to buy it. But then the chart time is going to go down, so I'm going to sell it. They may be in and out of positions, minutes at a time, seconds at a time. But this is very intensive. You have to be in front of your screen all day watching the chart. And that's basically how they make their money. But again, I have my day job, so I don't have time to be looking at the screen all day. So I deliberately design strategies.
Nor would you want to. I mean, that's not.
It depends. Like, some people like doing that. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But again, I don't have time for that. So I deliberately construct my strategies where I will put a position on at the beginning of the day, and I'll set something called a stop loss order. A stop loss order basically just gets you out. If the position goes against you, it's if I lose X dollars, get me out. And it's an automatic order that will basically get you out. It kind of bails you out. And so I'll set my stop. I turn off my computer, walk away, go do my day job, whatever it is. Towards the end of the day, meaning when the market's about to close, I'll kind of check my positions or put on a new trade. So I'm specifically setting up a strategy where I'm trading for short amounts of time at the opening and at the close. Now, in the middle of the day, if there's going to be an emergency or something happens, I carry my laptop around everywhere I go. So if something needs to be done, I can open it up just in case. So again, that's just another example.
I've been with them when he's like, hold on, I got to go do this real quick.
Yeah, you've seen that. Right?
Oh yeah.
So it's another issue of having a system and deliberately going about it in a way that fits to your own needs, be it your risk tolerance, your time schedule, or whatever it is. So that's just another example of that.
Wow. That was, I retained about, I think 10% of everything you just said. I think I understood 10%.
Yeah, you guys have to go rewind this and watch it 10 more times.
You clearly have a different brain than I do.
Yeah.
Because that's some complex stuff. But Tastytrade, and I started watching the videos a while back, and I think why I didn't like it is I don't know. I'm more of like a set it and forget it type of guy, where I want to buy a property and let it pay me and kind of move on to the next one and just accumulate and never look at, never think about what I just bought or
Yeah,
what I just,
it's just like a
you
different
know what
mindset.
I mean? It's just, I
Yeah.
guess it's different. And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
just
The
have
stock
different,
market and real estate is so different. I mean, they're obviously both
yeah.
great vehicles for investment, and that's why I'm interested and involved in both. But
Right. And I want to make clear that when I dog on the stock market, I'm not necessarily dogging on this. I'm more dogging on the whole thing where people say, invest in your 401k, invest in your IRA, and let it, get to retirement one day. That's what I'm dogging on, because I don't believe in that approach.
yeah, because you're not involved, right?
You're
It's
not
just
involved,
you're not
and
in
the
control,
returns
right?
suck typically, unless it's self-directed and you can do your own thing.
Yeah,
But
and at the end of the day,
totally different discussion.
even like with real estate, it's just about education, right? That's why,
Right.
with CEO Capital Partners, with Wealth Junkies, it's about educating people so they can understand what they're doing and be involved, and yes, you can involve in real estate passively, but at least you understand, like you know the details and you kind of know what you're getting into and you have an idea of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, on that subject, why don't we talk about investing in real estate passively? Can you talk a little bit about your experience there?
Yeah. Again, you guys, we got into the whole multifamily scene, and your audience, I know you got tons of episodes, so people get the idea. But my involvement, because what you wanted me, and my wife, who's also involved, to do, was because we're good with systems. I understand numbers, and that was our strength that we brought. And so my involvement from the GP side, the general partner side, with CEO is looking at the numbers, helping with the underwriting, and assessing the pros and cons of the deals, and sort of, and for me, taking that knowledge and leveraging my experience of explaining about risk and risk management, because I talk to investors, because I also do investor relationships for you guys, right? So I talk to investors, I educate them, but I also I also invest in some of our projects, because personally, because these syndications are general partnerships, so investors invest as limited partners. But we as general partners can also choose to invest our own money as limited partners. And for people who want to invest in real estate, being a passive investor gives you all the tax benefits, all the returns. Well, not all of them, but a good amount of it, right? Because it's profit shared. But you get, none of the time constraint, right? And it's actually less capital intensive than going out and buying a single family house, because around here where we live in Northern Virginia, the prices, you go buy a townhouse, it's like 400,000.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to buy that in cash. Even if you put a down payment as 100,000, 80,000, and like with these syndications, you can typically put close to that, maybe a little bit less. It depends on the deal. But again, what am I doing as a passive investor? I'm leveraging somebody else's money, somebody else's time, somebody else's skill set, knowledge. So that's just another example, so I'm involved in all these things, but
leverage is key.
Yes. Leverage, leveraging time, leveraging, all of that. So just, that's how I'm involved in all of these things and still able to kind of juggle my day job.
Yeah. So
talking about all this, you kind of forget that you do have a day job, which is crazy.
Right. Insane. I'm always like just mind blown how I'm one of the, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So I have to really do one thing. Yeah, no, it's totally, we have totally different brains. But why don't you, still on the topic of the passive investing, why don't you talk, can you talk a little bit about the specific deal that you did and why you liked it and what attracted you to it?
Yeah, so we did one. It was a student housing over at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and we like that one because student housing is that's always going to be in demand, right? As long as that school has students,
especially at the larger universities.
Yes, students need to live there, and I think real estate and student housing, I've heard that it can be almost counter-cyclical, because sometimes when there's a recession or people lose their jobs, like they go back to school, so it's almost an increase in demand.
So you're just doubling down on the real estate and people going back to school, essentially.
Yeah. And so student housing in particular, because I know we deal with apartments and student housing, but that's student housing has always been been an attractive one just because there's a lot of, is it tailwinds or headwinds? Tailwinds, basically things that work for why that's always going to have, good supply and low vacancy and high demand and rentership and everything.
Yeah, that's right. Some people are getting scared from right now from the smaller universities and the student housing there, just thinking that there's kind of a bubble in that space. But no, I think that the larger universities are you're kind of betting on that school and whether it's going to be around. And if you're betting on Wake Forest, Ohio State, Texas A&M, big schools like that, they're going to be, they've been around a while. They're going to be around a while, most likely. So that's
the concern with the smaller schools, is that they're going to kind of go out of business because of these big schools just kind of expanding and getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. But one thing I'll point out, and again, the nice thing, if you're going to invest in a single family house, you might be dropping 100, 200, 300K on one house, right? And with the syndications, it's deal by deal again, but you can actually invest less than the capital it takes to go buy a single family buy and hold. So in a way, you can almost diversify and you can kind of pick and choose, different projects. And if you're connected with different operators, they might have different offerings all the time, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want to. You can spread out the money and diversify the risk. So that's kind of nice too.
Yeah, and that's not even the biggest appeal when comparing them to each other. The biggest appeal to me is the fact that you literally don't have to do anything. I mean, it's truly passive. Whereas a rental property, people preach buy single family rentals. It's passive income. It's this, that, and it's passive income when everything is going perfect.
Yes, everyone wants to be a landlord until they become a landlord.
Exactly, until they deal with people not paying, or somebody getting in trouble and get the cops called, or there's a litany of different things. So yeah, no, that's all good stuff. Well, what are some of your goals and the vision moving forward?
Right now, and one thing that I want to point out, because I've heard all the episodes, you've had people on here do crazy things, build like multi-million-dollar companies or start charities or do all these great things. And for me, like, I'm not even at that point yet. And I think I'm hoping this kind of connects or resonates with some of the audience more, because I'm not financially free. I'm not at the point where I've got passive income that, can meet my normal expenses, and I'm not ready to quit my day job.
You're not living on the beach or anything.
Right. But and like I said, I'm sort of starting out, but I want to show that if you have the knowledge and the passion and the interest, you can find ways to get creative and get started. So I have all these things going on, and I don't know which one I want. If I want to double down or triple down and focus on one thing, I have the knowledge to potentially scale any of these endeavors to something huge. I just haven't chosen to. Again, I like my day job, and I do like that semblance of stability, but I'm able to at least be involved, and I am building wealth, so to speak, right? Because all these things are, I'm making some money, I'm building some wealth, and I have a lot of different paths. So I guess the answer to the question is that I'm not sure yet, but I have a lot of options.
Do you think you will eventually? Yeah,
pun intended.
Right, no pun intended. Do you think that you will one day double down on something?
Or is it's hard to say. Really if something really takes off and the money's good, or like I said,
right.
Not just the money, but something where I really enjoy doing it, and it's going to pay for, my whatever my expenses, if I can feel like I'm financially free, and because I don't want to jump out of the frying pan into the fire, go from one thing I don't want to do to another thing, right? Because you don't want
exactly.
So can options trading be a full-time thing for you? I mean, can you make enough money?
Not necessarily for me, but absolutely, because there's people who trade full-time, but if you think about it, I'll use an extreme example. If you had to do something and you had to succeed, or you're going to die, right? Because if you have to trade and you have to make money, or otherwise you're not going to put food on your table. Mm-hmm. It's a different kind of pressure, right?
You'll figure it out.
I'm trading to build wealth, improve, self-educate, and just kind of improve my own knowledge. But I have a long-term plan, and I plan to build that over time, and I still have my job. So, if there's a losing week or losing month or whatever it is, that's not going to affect me. But when you do, just like you guys talk about active versus passive income, That is active income, right? But not only that, you can be active and still not make money, right? So there's a lot more pressure. There's a lot more, and yeah, for me, I don't even know if I could do that, just because it's a whole different kind of pressure and kind of different psychology, and you've got to like really, really like be confident.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You think about like people who play poker full time,
Right. You're working and you're stressing your body on it. You're stressing your mind for it. And
yep. You got to be all in. That's again, no pun intended. Yeah, no, it's so true. So true.
Well, David, we're going to jump into our Moments of Truth segment here. It's the same 7 questions that we ask all of our guests. And I'm excited to hear one of the questions, your answer to one of them, because we've been talking about your time a lot. So,
yeah.
But the first one here is, who is your success role model?
So I don't have any specific one, because the way I work is I take little nuggets here and there. And like, I'm not really like a creative person, but I can see value and the things that people say or teach and deconstruct that or reverse engineer it or build it into something of my own. So I've just taken knowledge from so many places. Either it's from like people in the multifamily world, real estate, other agents that I know, or even members of my options trading forums that I participate in. And I just basically, I'm good at like absorbing all the knowledge and just kind of making something and making use of it myself. So that's kind of my answer to that.
Take little bits and pieces.
That's a good answer. Yeah. Eat the meat and spit out the bones type of thing.
Sure.
From put it all together. It's good stuff. What's your biggest success?
Definitely being able to find things that I'm passionate in, but also do it in a way that I can balance that with my schedule and not have to sacrifice too much on any one aspect. I can do all the things I like and kind of balance all of that together and just kind of not have it being too disruptive on my my job, my personal life, family life, all of that. Yeah.
Good.
This is the question I am interested in hearing your answer to. What's a typical day for you look like?
So the kids might wake up around 7:30, take breakfast, take them to school. Then I have about a couple hours to do my day job, do my work. Around 9:30, when the market's about to open, I will kind of take a look at what's going on pre-markets. I will trade for about 10-15 minutes, and then spend about 10 minutes after that. Sort of, I keep a trade log. I kind of enter everything I do into this journal, and people can follow that. So by 10, I'm at my day job doing my work until about 3:30. Which is about when the market closes at 4. So again, I kind of get ready, might do 10 minutes of trading. Again, kind of log everything I do, kind of write down what my plans and everything, and wrap up my day job about 5 o'clock. Pick up the kids, have dinner, do the whole bath shower routine. Kids go to bed 8-9 o'clock, and I have 3 hours. So what is that thing? We'll talk about the miracle morning. I have like the miracle 9 to 12. And that's when I got to do everything.
So you reversed it. Yours is at night.
Yeah. I research about strategies. I look at if there's anything I have to do the next day. I talk, I see if there's people messaging me who answer questions or, schedule showings for people who, people that want to see houses or work on a contract. So everything that's involved. And sometimes, unfortunately, I sleep a little late. So maybe from 9 to 1. So it's like the miracle 4 hours after the kids. And that's where I have to really concentrate and do all of the things that take me to go into preparing for the next day or whatever other endeavors I'm doing. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's a long day, but it sounds like you're getting the most out of your time with it. So that's good.
Yeah, that is good. So you kind of reverse it. You're not you don't wake up super early. Instead, you put your high level stuff on the end of the tail end of your day, as opposed to the very beginning.
Right.
Cool. Very cool. What's your favorite quote?
This should not be a surprise. Work smarter, not harder.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. So that's what you're doing.
Simple, but so good.
That's basically the whole philosophy of how I'm able to structure all that, or everything I do, right?
Yeah, right. Especially with the options and all that too. David, what are some of your hobbies?
I do indoor rock climbing. I haven't been able to do that as much, but I try to go out maybe once a week. There's an indoor rock gym near where I live. and then I collect the custom playing cards, and this is kind of a kind of unusual one because in high school I used to be into like a close-up card magic. That was kind of a hobby of mine, which I haven't had time to do any of that. But because of that, I was in playing cards and looking at them, and one day I found out that people kind of custom designing. So they're just regular playing cards, ace through king and court cards and everything, but they customize the back design. They customize all the faces and just like really extravagant stuff. And I've spent probably too much money collecting. I have like hundreds of decks.
Do they have value to them other than your personal value, or?
Some do, and some go up in value, and sometimes I buy them and I trade them and I sell them. It's funny. I don't make a lot of money, but it's funny
it's unique. So
it's definitely.
If you had to guess, how much money have you spent on all those cards?
I don't know, north of 10 grand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's over the last like 5 years. So.
Yeah. Put that disclaimer in there. Yeah, sure. I think it was like last month, wasn't it?
Just in case.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just in case his wife's listening.
Yeah.
What's the best business book that you've read?
I haven't honestly read that many, but I think, again, probably won't be surprised, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And because, anyone who wants to start business, into entrepreneurial investing, they've probably heard or read that. And one thing I want to point out, there's not necessarily a lot of actionable stuff to be taken from that book, but it's about the mindset. And even if it's just the way he talks about looking at money and investing and doing businesses and starting your own business, it's like an eye opener. And the funny thing is, you let me borrow that book, right? So you actually lent that to me a little ways after I had done the hedge fund and we did the CEO. But it was cool because it kind of validated, like when we were doing these endeavors, I was starting to see the light and the path of like, okay, passive investing, wealth building, and just ways to handle money and invest more for the long term, And the things that he says in that book are sort of validated that and just sort of reinforce those concepts. So definitely
that book is just instrumental. I mean, I read it kind of late too. I had already bought one house and was making decent money in the mortgage business, and that's I had a tenant living with me. I did the whole house hack thing, and he moved out, and I think he was paying me like $750 a month or so. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to leave it empty and I'm making more money now in the mortgage business, whatever. I'm going to leave it empty. And then I read that book, and then it was just getting hit with a sledgehammer upside the head. I was like, I'm such an idiot for not doing something with that room and creating some kind of stream of income for myself. Right. So immediately then I put it on Airbnb and
like you said, David, it kind of validates what you're already doing. There's never really a too late of a time to read that book. It's just, it just helps you validate what you're going through and what your thoughts are. So last question here, David, if there's one key piece of advice you could leave our listeners with about achieving success, what do you think it would be?
So I thought about this a long time and I couldn't boil it down to one. So I have two things I want to say, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And one of them is to set your own goals and define your own success, because if you have a clear path of something you want to achieve and you meet that goal, no one can tell you that you're wrong or you failed. And an example with trading is, people always say, why do you trade? Well, I want to make money. Well, obviously, right? But beyond that, how much do you want to make? How much are you willing to risk? How much time do you have? To create a very specific strategy and execute on it. As long as you meet the goals you've set out for yourself and you define your own success, then no one can tell you you're wrong or that you failed. And the other thing is, going along with the idea of leveraging time, leveraging knowledge, is whatever you want to do and be successful in, don't recreate the wheel. Find a group or find a mentor, find a meetup. Now with internet, no matter what you're interested in, there's going to be some group out there or meetup or something, a Facebook group, that there's going to be like-minded people that you can bounce ideas. Because trying to do some of these things on your own, especially entrepreneurs and starting out and trying to take this new venture and take this risk, it gets lonely sometimes. So to have people you can talk to, and especially if you can find a mentor, somebody who's really knowledgeable, that you can really get that direct, face-to-face engagement, can just really help you not only boost your confidence, but kind of help you stick to your plan and stay in the game and kind of lift you up when you feel discouraged.
Yep. And you can find one of those groups on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies.
Yep. There we go. There we go.
So David, how can our listeners get in contact with you if they've got questions or interested about what you're doing?
Yeah, you can email me at email me at thetradebusters@gmail.com. So that's the Trade Busters, kind of like the Ghostbusters, but trade, TRADE. And there's a long story behind that name. So message me if you want to hear about that. And then I have a trading webpage that, where I post my trades, that there's essays, there's other content that I write that people who follow me. And it's www.thetradebusters.com. And I just want a quick caveat. It's not an actual website. It's really just like a Google sheet where I have some of my graphs and things. And I just use that URL to point to it. The reason what this was meant more for the people who follow me and my Facebook group. So it was not meant to be professional, like, mass thing. But so just don't be taken aback when you go to the website.
So basically it's like just a bunch of really good information with none of the fluff.
Yeah, I guess you can say that. Yeah.
Perfect. That's exactly what I look for. So that's good stuff.
That's awesome. Well, David, we appreciate you taking time out of your day, the very limited time that you have, to spend it with us and do an interview. And we're excited to see where this goes in the future for you. So we appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. We'll see everybody tomorrow.